Detective Jake Rocket Riley had two things on his mind most days: closing cases and ruffling the feathers of Detective Maya Eagle Eye Cruz. Jake was all instinct and action. He moved fast, talked faster, and had a grin that could charm a confession out of a hardened safecracker. He ran on coffee, adrenaline, and the sheer thrill of the chase. His desk looked like a tornado had a personal vendetta against paperwork, but somehow he always got his man. He was good, maybe the best, and he loved letting everyone know it, especially one particular detective who worked across the hall. Across that hall was Maya Cruz. Her nickname wasn't just for show. She could spot a lie from a mile away and notice a single out-of-place thread at a crime scene that everyone else had missed. Maya was methodical, patient, and sharp as a tack. Her desk was a work of art, with perfectly aligned pens and color-coded files. She believed in plans, evidence, and following the procedure to the letter. She also believed that Jake Riley was the most infuriating, albeit handsome man she had ever met. Their rivalry was the stuff of precinct legend, a constant back and forth of one-upmanship. The competition between them was fierce, but it was laced with something else, something that crackled in the air whenever they were in the same room. It was a flirty dance disguised as a professional duel. Jake would swagger over to her desk, leaning against it with that annoying smirk. "Close the warehouse heist, Cruz. What did you do today? File some reports?" She'd just raise an eyebrow, not looking up from her screen. "I identified the suspect from a partial print on a candy wrapper you missed. Try to keep up, Rocket." But sometimes, their rivalry took a turn for the hilarious. One afternoon, Maya crept up behind Jake, a mischievous glint in her eye and handcuffs at the ready. Without warning, she snapped the cuffs around his wrist and declared, "Jake Riley, you're under arrest for excessive swagger and reckless use of charm in a police precinct." Jake grinned, holding up his cuffed hands. "Guilty as charged, Cruz, but I demand my one phone call, and a decent cup of coffee in my cell." The whole office burst out laughing as Maya led him toward the holding cell, only to unlock the cuffs at the last second with a wink. "Next time, try not to leave your evidence, or your ego, lying around." Just then, the captain strolled in, balancing a box of donuts in one hand and a tray of coffee in the other. Instantly, the entire precinct was distracted. Officers abandoned their desks, and even Jake and Maya paused their banter to eye the box like it was the crown jewels. Jake and Maya both reached for the last chocolate glazed at the same time, their hands colliding mid-air. "Looks like we've got another case to solve," Jake quipped, grinning. The insults were their love language, and the entire precinct had front-row seats to the show. Their captain, a man who had seen it all, mostly just sighed and poured himself another cup of bitter coffee. He knew their rivalry, as intense as it was, made them both better. They pushed each other to be sharper, faster, and more thorough. Jake's daring leaps of logic were tempered by Maya's demand for solid proof. Maya's careful planning was often given a necessary jolt of energy by Jake's impulsive actions. They were like two halves of the perfect crime-solving machine, if only they could stop trying to beat each other long enough to realize it. Their competitive fire was the very thing that made them an unstoppable force. The big one finally landed on their desks. Not together, of course. The captain, in a moment of either pure genius or utter desperation, assigned them both to the same case, the phantom thief who was stealing priceless jewels from the city's wealthiest residents. The thief was slick, leaving no fingerprints, no witnesses, and no forced entry. It was like the jewels simply vanished into thin air. The media was having a field day, and the pressure was on. Jake saw it as his chance to once and for all prove he was the top detective. Maya saw it as her chance to finally put Jake in his place with a display of superior investigative skill. Jake hit the streets immediately. He started shaking down informants, leaning on his network of contacts and chasing down every whisper on the grapevine. He was a whirlwind of activity, convinced the answer was out there, hiding in the city's underbelly. He'd call Maya from a noisy bar, shouting over the music, "Got a lead, Cruz! A guy named Fingers Frankie is selling some shiny stuff downtown. Probably my guy." He was chasing shadows, burning fuel and energy, sure that one of these wild goose chases would eventually lead him straight to the Phantom. Maya, on the other hand, went straight to the crime scenes. She spent hours in the quiet, opulent homes where the thefts occurred, walking the path the thief might have taken. She meticulously reviewed security footage, even the frames that seemed to show nothing. She noticed tiny details Jake had blown right past in his haste. At one mansion, she found a faint scuff mark on a velvet rope near a window, a mark so small it was almost invisible. "The thief is agile, Jake," she told him over the phone, her voice calm and steady. "And they're not using the doors. They're a ghost for a reason." Their different methods created a chaotic but surprisingly effective web of information. While Jake was out chasing down dead-end leads about Fingers Frankie, he would inadvertently uncover other small-time crooks, clearing the board of distractions. While Maya was analyzing blueprints and alarm system schematics, she was building a psychological profile of their suspect. They were working separately, but their efforts were starting to overlap. They were collecting different pieces of the same puzzle, each convinced their piece was the most important one. The one that would solve the whole thing. The case forced them into close quarters. The next likely target was a charity gala at the City Museum, where a famous diamond necklace, the Star of Midnight, would be on display. The captain ordered a joint stakeout. This meant long nights, cramped cars, and far too much time together. For Jake and Maya, it was both a dream and a nightmare. They sat in an unmarked sedan across from the museum, the air thick with the smell of stale coffee and unspoken tension. "If you breathe that loudly one more time, Riley, I'm gonna cuff you to the steering wheel," Maya muttered, peering through her binoculars. Jake just chuckled, taking a deliberate, noisy slurp of his coffee. "Relax, Eagle Eye. You're just tense because you know I'm going to spot the thief first." He leaned back, his arm brushing against hers, sending a jolt through both of them. For a moment, they weren't rivals. They were just two people in a car, in the middle of the night. Then he'd ruin it. "Besides, you're looking at the wrong window. The real action is going to be the service entrance." The bickering was a comfortable rhythm, a way to fill the silence and ignore the racing of their own hearts. Their funny moments came in flashes. During one endless night, Jake fell asleep and started snoring, his head slumping onto Maya's shoulder. She froze, a rare smile gracing her lips. She let him sleep for a whole 10 minutes before accidentally blasting the car horn, making him jump so high he nearly hit the roof. He spent the next hour complaining, but she saw the amusement in his eyes. Another time, she correctly guessed his entire fast food order down to the exact number of pickles he wanted on his burger, leaving him momentarily speechless. "How?" he started. "I pay attention, Rocket. It's what I do," she said with a smirk. Beneath the teasing, a new understanding began to grow. During one quiet moment, Maya shared a theory about the thief's background based on the type of knots used to bypass a laser grid. Jake, instead of making a joke, listened intently. "That's actually brilliant, Cruz." He then offered a piece of information from an informant that perfectly matched her theory. They started connecting the dots together, their sentences overlapping. The competition melted away, replaced by the thrill of a shared breakthrough. In the dim glow of the dashboard lights, they looked at each other and saw not a rival, but a partner. The night of the gala arrived. Their teamwork was put to the ultimate test. Based on Maya's analysis and Jake's intel, they knew the thief would make a move. Maya had figured out the thief was a former circus acrobat who used their unique skills to navigate the building's exterior. Jake had gotten a name, a high-wire artist who had recently fallen on hard times. They weren't competing anymore. They were a unit. "You take the roof, I'll cover the main floor," Jake said, his voice serious. "Be careful," Maya simply nodded. "You too, Rocket." It was the first time they had ever said it and meant it so completely. The plan went into motion. As the party swirled below, Maya was on the roof, spotting their suspect moving with silent grace along a ledge. She radioed Jake, her voice a calm whisper. "He's heading for the east skylight. Your position?" Jake was already moving, weaving through the crowd of tuxedos and gowns. "On my way. Intercept him before he gets to the necklace." There was no ego, no race to be the hero. There was only the mission, and the implicit trust that the other person would do their part. It was a perfectly synchronized dance. The takedown was a thing of beauty. Just as the acrobat dropped through the skylight and was about to snatch the necklace, Jake was there. A short, frantic chase through the museum's back corridors ended when the thief ran right into Maya, who had predicted his escape route. They had him cornered. The arrest was made, the Star of Midnight was safe, and the phantom thief was finally unmasked. Standing there, under the stark lights of the museum hallway, they looked at each other, breathing heavily. They had done it. Together. The adrenaline of the chase gave way to a different kind of excitement. Back at the precinct, the captain clapped them both on the shoulder, a genuine smile on his face. "I knew you two could do it if you stopped trying to outdo each other," he said. Later, as the station quieted down, Jake walked over to Maya's perfectly tidy desk. He didn't lean on it this time, he just stood there. "You were amazing tonight, Maya. She looked up, her expression soft. So were you, Jake. The competition was over. The case was closed. In its place was a quiet certainty. They realized that their greatest strength wasn't in their rivalry but in their partnership, both on the job and off. If you want no handcuffs, like and subscribe to Love Story Alley for more flirty crime-solving romance.